Well, today we're ending our meeting which we had together, which I hosted. Hi, I'm Michael St.Clair. So I had hosted this meeting from the 7th to the 11th of May 2015 with Egon von Greyerz, who came from Switzerland to teach our clients and friends. We know that you are the master of the gold, but what we didn't know was that you're actually a philosopher and a teacher, and you transform these people in 4 days to some degree. They listen to you. And I have to say to the viewers, we have something in common. We have Sagittarius rising by birth, which makes Jupiter our chart ruler, and that gives us the ability to be a little bit philosophical and teach friends and clients about things. So, Egon, we were discussing these challenging and interesting times to come into 2045. That's true because of this super alignment. Anyway, what I found interesting is we discussed radiant zones, how we should prepare, what we can do for ourselves, and all these things. But I feel what we could discuss more in depth is what else you have to say or to suggest to people what this is about in the coming, say, 5 to 10 years, what each human being can do for themselves beyond just the practical preparations you advise them to do.
Yes, there are many parts to life, and of course we have discussed the more practical ones here of the world being in a mess economically, financially, and even geopolitically. And therefore the risks that the world will look very different to for our children and grandchildren and future generations, that risk is very big. And it could lead to misery for a lot of people. It could lead to financial disasters. It could lead to changes, as you have explained, also earth changes, etc. And it could lead to even social unrest or war. I mean, these are the risks and the consequences of the excesses that we have seen in the last, well, certainly, well, you could say the last 100 years since the creation of the Fed, or certainly in the last 10, 20 years. So those are the risks, and therefore life will change for a lot of people, in my view, or could change dramatically. But then, what people should do is first realize that you've got to prepare for this in the way you can. Everybody can't prepare. If you have a bit of money, yes, you put some into gold and in a safe place, of course. And if you have a chance to live, I mean, in a beautiful area like this, in Catalonia in Spain, I mean, that is very special. But everybody doesn't have that ability, or neither the money nor the ability to just move away to somewhere. But there are still ways of preparing yourself, because life is all inside anyway. You know, these are all external things, money, you know, where you live, etc. But I think they're an expression. What lies behind you and what lies ahead of you are little things compared to what lies within you.
That's beautiful. That's right.
And that's really what life is all about. It is within us. And therefore these are the things that most people can do something about. It's not easy to change what is within you. But nevertheless, you know, and this is, so within you, of course, then you look at, if we get more difficult times, it's all about the group of people around you, your family, your friends, and you know, creating a circle of people who actually support each other. And that first, of course, family is extremely important. Everybody isn't fortunate enough to have a family, but if you do, you know, it's extremely important to be close with your family and help each other. Yeah. And then you have a group of friends, and maybe then if you can expand your circle, you have then people who have skills also.
Yes, and the friends become your new family.
Yes, absolutely. And then, as I said, you know, life is all about learning, and we all learn from each other, and we can help each other.
This is very true. You actually transformed some people during this meeting And Ralphie Finn said to us that everyone changes everyone in such an interaction we have.
Yes.
And I really witnessed, I want to say that as a host of this meeting, I witnessed and I experienced how you actually transformed some people from within, not just by the knowledge you transferred in a linear manner to their brains, into their minds, but you have affected their attitude to some degree in a positive way. I saw this happening and I found that masterful. I was meant to say that everyone understands that you are way beyond more and different than just an expert and gold practitioner, just as I am actually something else in addition to an astrologer. I just use astrology for timing, but what you did in this meeting was quite astounding.
Well, as you know, it's not conscious what I'm doing. It's not deliberate.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
so I'm very pleased if that actually happened, of course, and somebody actually got something from that. But you know, we can only be the ones we are,
Yes.
and that's what, you know. If you're honest to yourself, you'll be honest to others also, and that makes life easier, of course. But coming back to these problems that I see we could have for the next few years or longer in the world, it could be a lot longer than any of us can imagine. We have to, as I said, you have to organize this circle around you, and because people have lived in misery or with famine or in war zones their whole lives. And, you know, and that's not the end of the world. Of course, it's very difficult compared to sitting here in this wonderfully peaceful environment.
It's a PowerPoint here.
It is, absolutely. It's very good for the soul here. But nevertheless, people have lived in these areas, they have survived, but then this group of people becomes so much more important, of course.
Yes, yes.
And it does remind me a bit of Viktor Frankl. I'm sure you're familiar with Viktor Frankl's book. You know, the Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote this book after, I mean, he had this experience in concentration camps. He was in several, I think, but he was in Auschwitz also.
Yes.
And his whole family died, and he survived. And so the first half of the book is about how he survived that, and his whole experience was that the people who helped other people the most, they survived the longest, and that's what he was doing. And then he realized that, you know, he managed to survive because he wanted to survive and tell the rest of the world about his experience there. And then also, he was a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And he developed this theory of logotherapy. And this is, you know, the meaning of life, man's search for meaning. And rather than, you know, I'm not an expert in psychology or psychiatry at all, but I do understand the difference between logotherapy and Freudian psychology, for example, which is digging in the past, which
yes.
I think, in my view, doesn't lead to anything.
I agree with you totally on that.
Because life is today and in the future,
yes.
and
It's
this
in
is
the now.
Yes, it is.
We live only now.
Yeah, and this is where Viktor Frankl developed this wonderful philosophy about, for all of us, life has a meaning, and we all of us have within us something that we can offer to others. And the secret of your life is really trying to find that. And I think, and that's the more, not everybody can, of course, because it's very difficult. And if I think a lot about this, and you know, we're fortunate enough to have, so we have 3 children and we have 9 grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And of course, when your children grow up, you're busy. You're busy with your work, you're busy with, also with raising the family,
yeah.
And you don't have time to study them in the same way that your children. Now, when you have 9 grandchildren, you can look upon them in a different way, and you can see everyone has a personality, everyone has a soul, and everyone has a gift.
Yes.
and they all have different gifts. And rather, for parents and school, rather than stuffing your children with education and rules, etc., you know, it's so much more important, or as important, to actually find what is their meaning, what are they good at,
yes,
and how can you develop that, you know, because if schools did more of that, and parents, you would have a lot more happy children than just putting them through school or university, whatever it is. So I find that fascinating, and I think that's one of the most interesting books I've read and experiences is logotherapy, because I do believe in it. Everybody has something to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Everyone needs to know why she or he came here, what it's about.
Yes.
And I really couldn't agree more with what you just explained. It's important to find that point, and also what you said about education, I agree with you. I wrote in this tiny little booklet that I did for the meeting that I myself was sort of put through the system. I didn't like any of it, and I think if we want to apply our own sort of philosophy we have, that we should get out of the system, there comes even the point when, like Krishnamurti suggested, or I'm paraphrasing Krishnamurti, that we should be able to self-educate ourselves. I mean, I'm not suggesting we should not go to school, but we should know what that going to school is about, and keep it in its proper place. So what you're saying, particularly for these times that are coming, and they're interesting times and challenging times, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty wild for the next 10 years still to come. At the same time, I've experienced by studying history that it is precisely in those extreme times that at some moments the best comes out of people.
Yes, absolutely. And this is what, you know, when you hear about now people talking about the war and the First World War and the Second World War, for the ones who were lucky enough to survive and not be too affected by it, I mean, they talk about this as one of the best times in their lives.
You see? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because there was this group, there was camaraderie, and everybody helped each other. And even the people who were back at home, you're working in factories, etc., producing, they said the same, because everyone worked for a purpose. Now, there was the wrong purpose, of course, absolutely wrong. I'm totally against wars of any form.
No, I understand it.
Yeah, but actually, here you got this perfect teamwork, if you want.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely right. Talking about, you said education and families. I mean, the problem is that society today doesn't understand this. And I read yesterday about in the US, there was a wonderful family with 7 children living in the countryside with 20 acres, educating their children, and the children are happy, fulfilled, well-educated children.
You mean homeschooling?
Yeah, homeschooling. Yes. And now the authorities, I can't remember where it was, the authorities in the US, they came without warning, there's no question of actually the children not being properly educated or fed or anything, without warning, just they came and arrested, took all the children away from them, because they hadn't followed the rules.
Yeah. It happened in Germany too. In Germany, actually, it is illegal to do homeschooling.
Yes.
Also. And this is the police state that's part of these, you know, challenging astrological alignments.
Yes.
Go on.
But coming back to you know, you have studied so much more of this than I have. I mean, because to me, it's a side hobby, if you want. Life is a side hobby, but it's great fun. And to me, there's no difference between life and family and work, but it's all one thing.
It is.
Because it's you know, it is life. But you've spent so much more time searching and looking, and I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about that, because you said so many interesting things in the last few days.
Well, what I felt, I mean, as a kid, I was sort of I don't know how to say, rogue, renegade a little bit. I just saw through it very quickly.
Yes.
I just thought, you know, get me out of here, I don't need this. I felt it was a waste of my energy and time, although I did then volitionally go to the Swiss Army officer school and all that, because I felt actually this is what I'm going to get the best education of all, because it was a practical leadership management school and a technical school and all the rest of it. But I observed via my clients later what's going on. Through my clients I hear stories from literally all over the world, so I'm in touch with many cultures: Japan, United States of America, Canada, South America, Europe. I speak some languages, so I see what's going on via the prism, via the viewpoint of the clients and friends. And this is why in my book and in the things I share with people, I'm saying, okay, we have a practical level of things about what to do to be well-rounded, well-prepared. The most important thing is our self-education, which goes on before, during, and after the official system education. But I found then, when you apply, in my case, if I apply Krishnamurti as best as I can, it's very difficult to apply, then you can actually get a life and enjoy an existence, let's say, in another paradigm, sort of parallel to the system. Not necessarily outside, you know, you'll still be with one foot inside. If you want to drive a car, you need a license plate. If you want to travel, you need a passport, of course, and so on. So I'm not suggesting any funny thing, but you can do both. You can live your destiny, create your life, while being unaffected by the system as best as possible. This is not easy stuff. This is a whole art, actually. This is the art of the future now. Because the next 10, 20 years, to some degree, they're not going to be fun, if particularly in the Western world, if they're trying to enforce these ridiculous control rules. And I always say to my friends and clients, there's no fear in this. We don't have to be worried about these controllers. They're just chasing their tails, and eventually they will implode. But we need to use our time efficiently. We need to, you know, you have 30 years still ahead, I might have 30 years ahead, and this time needs to be used productively and constructively. I mean, that's sort of my view. I mean, we had very lively discussions, and I said to my friends and clients who came, I said, we don't have to agree on these things. There were debates, like when you got into it with Mr. Merriman about him saying, well, we could forgive the debt, and you pointed out, well, then what happens, etc.
Yeah.
So we had very applied conversations and debates, some of which we have on camera. But anyway, I'm saying in short, we have to use our time carefully and efficiently to achieve what we came here to do, to accomplish our mission.
But isn't that becoming more difficult for people? Again, I'm not.
Yes, it is.
I'm not a student of these things, but I am aware of that the Earth's magnetic field is weakening constantly.
That's correct.
Which means we're all less grounded.
Yes.
And I think you can see that in people. People are now more restless, and they're more stressed. They are, you know, everybody has their machines or television, or whether it's children's television or for adults. You know, you can only stay with a camera on one thing for a couple of seconds. You have to switch. It has to be instant gratification in all areas of life. And that is because I think we are less grounded. So it's more difficult to do something about it, because there are actually things changing in the Earth. So maybe you must have studied this.
Well, this is true. It's because this is why I want to be in nature, in PowerPoints with high energies, and Catalonia is one of them. We know many more around the world, and we move around the world, do meetings. The point is, yes, the electromagnetics are changing. That is quite clear. That's part of the Earth's changes. That affects the circuitry internally, obviously, because we're as above, so below, that's clear. And yes, people have no more attention span ability to focus, concentrate, learn, and teach. It's the same, learning and teaching. But that's for them to figure out. I mean, you do what you can, I do what I can. I always say to people, somebody asked in the meeting, well, what can we do about it? I said, well, you're okay, you do your job, we'll do what we can. But this is a challenge. Earth changes, the magnetic field changes, electric changes. I always say the whole cosmos is electric, and we're going to find out now with the new physics coming and the new technologies. We're going to have a lot of breakthroughs of the positive kind, but coming like through a tunnel into a warp drive of changing frequencies. It's all about frequencies and energies. We're going to a completely different, it's hard to explain in words. We're going to a new energy during the next 10-20 years, and we have to know that this is happening for sure. I mean, we know it when we look back 10 years, and so we have to adapt to this, and that's not easy. The only thing I can suggest to people is use their intuition. I don't have a better advice. Become aware of it, and then you know. Krishnamurti always says, if you're conscious of something, there's your change. So I mean, that's how I work, and I agree with you. This is a tough one for many people, and for children too.
Yes, very difficult for children.
Stop.
Yeah.
So you're talking about these changes, and in your talks in the last 3 days, you mentioned this, that we're going to more difficult periods, and you're seeing that maybe the end of that is around 2045. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes. Okay. We're going through phases. I brought our friends and clients through a phasing. So we have a first phase, beginning in 2021. With the alignments we discussed. I don't want to bore people with alignments anymore. And then 25, another very important one. And in 45 is, in my opinion, and I think many astrologers will agree, the most challenging alignment. That goes from about 2044 to 47, so that's actually a long stretch of time. It involves Uranus, which means it's going to mean new technologies which are coming. There's a new physics coming, a new science. I mean, new everything. It can also lead to complete social changes into a new world. I think it's on the positive side, because I'm like you, a Sagittarius rising, generally speaking, constructive, optimistic, and confident. But I mean, going there is going to be a tough one. I mean, we have to be clear, I'm realistic, this is challenging. The electromagnetic fields are changing, this is affecting the circuitry of the brains, the people's behavior, their thinking, lack of attention span, the children and the adults. Everybody's acting up under these frazzled energies. So what I'm saying is we're coming into new frequencies, and we as human beings on this planet need to know this. I'm saying, to apply Krishnamurti, when we are aware, the change is built in. When you're conscious, that's all you need to be. Then everything is automatic. It's action without thought. But yes, it's a tough one. But I see the solutions, like you discussed.
Of course, as we said, 2045 is a long way away, and life is today. And we've been talking about, I'm a total virgin in astrology, so I'm fascinated and interested, and I have had my birth chart explained to me, and
yes, we did some interactive astrology with our friends and clients with 3 astrologers here. It was fascinating.
And I was asking them, well, you told me who I am, but not, I think I knew a lot of that.
That helps when
but,
you know
you know yourself, yes. But then, of course, I asked the question, so are you saying, because everything was there and the minute I was born, everything could be said about me, so does that mean that everything is predetermined? And sometimes I have some sympathy with that. A lot of things in life are predetermined. On the other hand, I don't have sympathy with it, because if you accept everything as it is, then nobody can change anything. And I'm a great believer in, especially when we go through the more difficult times, or if we do, and when we do, that life is all about learning, and I think that's what keeps me going.
Yes, that's a Sagittarius rising.
Yes.
Right there. Student, teacher, you're an explorer, a searcher.
Yes.
I see that you're a searcher.
Yes, I'm a searcher, and love learning new things all the time. And I think, and I do believe that in a limited way. And if you ask my wife, it is very limited. But you can, or I can change myself, and I can try to progress and change things that are less good, and improve things. At the same time, learn a lot of new things. So life is this. I mean, I'm a great believer that I will call it genes. You will call it my birth chart, maybe. That they are dominant. So the other part is a lot.
It's the same, in my opinion. The genes, the astrology. There's an inscription there in your code.
Yes.
Because you're from the stars. We are from the stars. So the stars. It's kind of like quantum physics, almost. We are that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so as I said, because of that being so dominant, and since I was told that with my birth chart, and I believe the same with my genes, of course the other part becomes more difficult. But that's the fun part, and that's the challenge in life, of course, the other part. You know, even if it's a smaller percentage you can influence, it's still, I think, the most exciting. But it is, I can see that. You have to be able to see yourself before you know what to do with yourself.
Yes.
And of course, everybody hasn't got that gift either to look at themselves. If they did, you know, life would be a lot easier for many people.
Yes, we would not have any wars, we would not have conflict. See, the wars, all that, the future, the problems we're living now, you know, the future is that man is in conflict with himself, herself.
Yes.
That's Krishnamurti. Everything that you've just said is actually Krishnamurti, you know.
Yes.
Because you know this inside, genetically, and it shows a little bit in your astrology that you know that.
Maybe you say a couple of words about Krishnamurti, because I never heard the word before I came here. So, and okay, I'm sure most of your viewers will have seen that.
Yes. But well, some of my clients and the readers of my books, they know I studied Krishnamurti now for maybe 10, 12 years. He used to come to Sanan in Gstaad every year. He was a teacher from India, and he lived in California. He used to teach in London, in Brockwood Park, and in Sanan. He had his tours, and in India. And he told people to transform. He said, you know, why don't you change? What is it about you don't want to change? Mankind, people, they just carry on. And anyway, he said, when you're aware, you change. There's action without thought. And he said that, it's my most favorite statement of his. He said, only an empty mind can see clearly. And one of his best students in the application was actually the martial artist, master Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee sort of transformed the saying, and he said, empty your mind, be like water, my friend. So that's Krishnamurti in a nutshell.
Yeah,
and he used to come to Switzerland once a year in summer and teach in...
I know Sanan very well.
Yes,
I know Sanan.
I mean, he had talks. He wasn't teaching people. In fact, he said, you have to figure this out for yourself.
Yes.
And he even said to people, when he used to see the same faces during 10 years, he said, what are you doing here? You should have figured it out. And he knew faces.
Right.
He was a genius, you know.
Okay.
Yes. But you know all this anyway. That's amazing that you say you did not know of him, but everything you just said was basically Krishnamurti compressed.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Obviously you live it.
And when you then mention Sanan, which where I've been many times, then the circle is closing, you know. Yeah, very interesting, fascinating.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
Well, did you have any other piece of advice, wisdom for our friends?
Well, the only advice I would say, and it might sound too simple, but enjoy life, you know, because life is too good not to enjoy, and you know, and of course we know if more people understood that giving is the best way of enjoying life, you know, giving to others. I think that if people understood that, it makes life so much simpler rather than just taking and taking, and you don't, you know, you give, but of course, and then you don't have to. Buddha said you don't have to accept gifts that are not well-meant gifts. You can refuse gifts, and then you can let them stay with the giver.
Yes, that's well said.
So, because some people give things that you don't want to receive. I mean, I'm talking about negative things.
Yes, absolutely.
But you know, if you shouldn't take. It's nothing to do with you when people do that. It's the other person who has the problem. So I say, you know, therefore, giving is a wonderful thing, you know, also. We've given a lot here during these few days, and we have received a lot, and it's been the most fascinating few days for me with a combination of finance, economy, Merriman cycles, and trading methodology, gold.
Yes.
But overall, it's been an extremely warm and loving atmosphere, and I thank you for organizing all of this.
Well, you're more than welcome. I was very honored and really grateful that you came. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to give you, at the end of this meeting, my book, Light Seeds, Futures of Planet Earth, which discusses this entire business of what's going on in the next, say, 100 years. I know that in 30 years you said, if I may say, that you would be 100 years old. Here you go.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes, that's true. I mean, when we exchanged emails before, and you told me that 2045 is a very significant date, and I was thinking, I'm coming here to talk about 2045, and I'll be 100 years then. I said, I'm interested in what we can do today. But thank you so much for this gift. It's been the most magic and interesting few days I've had for a very long time. It's been in a mixture of philosophy, friendship, and learning. So I want to give you a little bit of a token of it's both gold and Swiss chocolate. So between two Swiss, it couldn't be better.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
This is good. This is, are those the 400 ounces?
Almost, yeah, they are 400 ounces.
That's how the LBMA guys look like. Chocolate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.